Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Mad Capper and this is another video on Raid Shadow Legends. Do not adjust your scent. I am actually not clean shaven. I'm just growing back in, but I did shave my beard. We're in the middle of a heat wave and I couldn't handle it anymore, and my skin was like flaking underneath because it was so dry under the beard, and it was just, I just had to do it, so we shaved her down. We're gonna grow it back out. Of course, I look better in a beard. I'm old. I'm an old-timey beard guy. What can I say? But for you today, I have, as you can see over here, I have a tier list, and I'm going to make a faction tier list, my best to worst, SS A B C tier faction. Each faction I'm going to analyze based on the criteria. What are their legendaries like? What are their epics? What are their rares? How well do they synergize together? Can I beat content with all of them? And there's kind of a special bonus for those factions that have the most highly sought after legendaries in their faction. So let's make this quick. I tried to do this yesterday. It took me an hour and 50 billion minutes. So we're going to try to speed that up a little bit. So let's just jump right into it. I hope I can see everything here. First, we're going to go right in the beginning. Banner Lords. We're going to talk about Banner Lords, and I'm going to try to keep this brief. But as you can see, from the legendary perspective, I think the Banner Lords are one of the weakest or one of the weaker factions of the group. However, none of them are awful, and that's kind of a weird thing, and I say that with Banner Lords a lot, all the way top down. You have Septimus, who used to be very highly sought after, has kind of fallen a little bit off, or even a lot of bit off, ever since Dungeon 21 through 25, because his big move, his enemy max HP, gets negated both in the Doom Tower and in 21 through 25. He still does impressive damage, but it kind of levels the playing field. Now Royal Guard, Cold Heart, even Arminger can do the same level of damage as he can. So the question then becomes, what does he bring to the table that's not with him? Other standouts, I think Sethalia might be one of the most underrated legendaries in the game. Her ability to turn meter boost, to cleanse, to strip, and have a resistance and an HP burn. She's a complete champion. She was reworked, and I think people tend to forget that. But outside of those two, and of course Raglan, I usually don't talk, Voids are kind of their own special class, but Raglan's probably the third one. Her kit is probably the standout of the class, right? You've got a 2-turn booked 75 HP and full turn meter revive. You've got a 4-turn with a removes all debuffs on all allies and heals them. The heal is proportional to this champion's attack, which is a strange little ditty, but nonetheless, and then attacks one enemy 3 times, fills a turn meter of 3 random allies by 15%. Allies can only have their turn meter filled once per turn by this skill. Kind of a weird little thing, probably something that needs a little tweaking, but she's so good they probably haven't bothered tweaking her. But great champion all around. And I think Helior is probably one that not a lot of people have yet, and he does have an interesting, cool little kit that can pose some issues, but he's not really an S tier. That is what they are lacking in the legendaries. They don't have any S tier. I would also at least argue they don't have any D tier or C tier. I took D off this, but they don't have any really crappy legendaries. I mean, Sigmund, it's hard to use him, but he does have uses. He does have an interesting kit. He can be played out. Cillian, really helpful in faction wars for a lot of people. Manaya, I know a lot of people like to crap on Manaya, but I tell you what, her heals, when you use her in the right group, again, very good. Lugan, same thing. His kit is disjointed. He uses ally protect, but he also needs damage to heal. Well, damage mostly comes from crits. If he's got too high a crit, it actually works against him in his ally protect. It's a broken issue of the game. So overall, I think I give this a B group, with the standouts being Raglan, Sethalia, and Septimus. From the epic standpoint, there are a lot of really good hidden gem epics, but of course we got to talk about arguably, I'm going to say top 5. There are 5 epics in the game you just want to have. And as soon as you get one of them, that's your best epic in the game. Doesn't matter which one it is, and Stagnite is that one. Of course, I'm sure you guys had figured it out. This ability, decreased defense plus decreased attack on a 3-turn cooldown, is absolutely bonkers, but also gives a decreased speed, very important in a lot of different comps out there. And then as the bonus, increased accuracy. When they made this champion, that was kind of a throwaway skill, but that becomes more and more important in things like Hydra. If you can get that increased accuracy on your champion, it's very useful. Although cautionary tale, make sure that increased accuracy doesn't send the head of mischief stealing buffs from the wrong player is one of the things you do, is try to focus the Head of Mischief on a high resistance champion. So that isn't the only good champion in this group, though. I think a lot of people underestimate what is in the epic pool of the Bannerlords. Ursula, top tier, S tier support champion. Warcaster, a mainstay in several different comps in the clan boss. Rowan, underrated. She's been fixed so that she has 100% poison uptime. She hits so incredibly hard. Her poisons should not be ignored. Sir Uttermage, I did a video on him. Check him out if you want. That video, I was actually shocked by his damage. Knight Errant, who I kind of warmed up to since my video on him. The fact is, he's got top 3 hardest hitting single target skill among epics. When he's full health, his A3 just hits for ridiculous numbers. Those are kind of your standouts here, but I wouldn't exactly ignore Seneschal, Oathbound, Gerhardt either. They can be used. Archmate, Helmet. So they got a lot of good here. S tier champions, I would say just Stag Knight and Ursula. Among the rares, you've got a lot of usable champions in the early game. I think a lot of people forget, but if you're free to play, Dagger, Steadfast, Marshal, Halberdier, Conqueror, all champions you can use in this group. Valerie's another one that's very good, and I feel like Preserver, but maybe not. So good early game champions. Nothing that's mainstay, nothing that pushes through. I'd give them a solid, maybe a B- in this group. But overall, I look at this group and I say, you know what? They don't have any major, oh my god, champions, but they don't have any, oh my god, champions either. I know people don't get psyched for Black Knight, for example, but he's still pretty good. So, you know, I look at it, and we're gonna meddle with the tier list at the end. I'm gonna relook at everything, but from first look, I'm gonna say this is an A tier group. They're not S tier, they're not God tier either. But they're not bad either. I think this is a good, solid group. You can build teams out of any of these champions, pretty much, and get what you want. Even the kind of the forgotten champions, like a Lord Champfort, a Sigmund, or a Lugan, Richtof even, can help you out in this game, even in the end game, depending on what you're trying to do. And just a lot of good epics, good, solid epics to fit into teams, though no particular, oh my god, standouts outside, of course, Stag Knight and Ursula. So next up, we have the High Elves. The High Elves have the second least amount of champions, which blows my mind because they're one of the oldest champion groups, and I'm surprised they haven't received more. But to be fair to them, they probably don't need more to be one of the best groups in the game, one of the best factions. You look at Poison Bomb, they got it. You look at free champions that actually can do damage and help you out in the game, they got it. Shermani, Roanus, Control. You've got Deliana, Control. She's brand new, free. Again, Lysandra, turn meter control. Arbiter, turn meter control. Royal Huntsman, high single target damage. Also has, and everyone forgets this, he has defense down. Ethos, one of the hardest hitting champions in the game. To this day, everyone kind of likes to forget about Ethos. He's kind of the Dre, Dr. Dre of Raid Shadow Legends. Tatura added, very good. Yannicka, very strong counter in the arena. And even Bellinor has really good spider and clan boss possibilities. So their legendary groups, I'm going to say, are S tier. Not quite double S tier, but of course with standouts like Arbiter, Ethos, Lysandra, it's pretty hard to argue that they aren't at least in the conversation for one of the better legendary groups. Epics, well, they're missing a ton. They're missing a ton of epics. When you looked at the last one, we had 3 pages or 3 rows. Here, we barely make it to row 2. But again, they have some of the best. So what do you say? You've got Royal Guard, Tayrel, Thenisel, Burgess. These are the standouts of this group here. Royal Guard, enemy max HP. Tayrel, defense down, defensive base champion. Also has turn meter control and stun. And an A1 that has a attack down, though he has fallen out of favor a little bit simply because of how the clan boss is being attacked and approached now compared to what it was 2-3 years ago. 2-3 years ago, the fact that Tayrel had that attack down in his A1 made him better than his counterparts. Since they've added those counterparts and the clan boss has changed, it's really changed his proposition, but he's still very strong, even though I would say Stag Knight and Duck probably better choices overall than him, but still a very strong champion. Vergis, the guy can solo the Scarab boss. He's very strong in the early game, very strong in the mid game, Very solid stalwart champion. The problem is I'm not a huge fan of Marksman Jingle Hunter. I think Battle Sage is overrated. Exemplar is dislike her. They can't rework her enough for me to like her. Luthea, kind of underwhelming, though I will say I was able to use her when I did a video on her. I would like to revisit her now that I have much better gear and see where we are a couple years later. But overall, I'm going to give them an A. I don't think they're quite S tier, even though they have a couple of S tier champions in my opinion. But they have a couple of C tier champions too, so that kind of balances out. Their rares, again, not a lot, but what they do have are among the best in the game. Apothecary, subjectively granted, but I think is the best rare in the game. I think his utility just makes him ridiculous. He's got triple hit A1, which makes him usable in so many areas. You can use Giant Slayer on him. You can use him to the Fire Knight, right? Because even though he's weak affinity on 20, he's a triple hit against that shield, and he can heal and keep your champion speed boost. So that whole kit is just ridiculously good. You can use Elhain. I think she's the best starter in the game. You can argue Kale, fine, but Elaine at least is a 1B and Kale's a 1A. Very strong. Eris also very strong, especially when you use her in the Demethacump. And finally, Reliquary Tender is one of the standouts of this group. This is an S tier level. There are arguably 4 champions you could be using right now today, regardless of how good your account is. I'm not saying you are, but you could. You could argue for Apothecary, Elhain, Eris, Reliquary Tender. Chances are you've probably replaced most of them, but even then, I still, to this day, use Reliquary Tender and Eris all the time. So between Doom Tower and Clan Boss. So just a really solid group. We're going to give these guys all together. I just think their synergy together works really well. They have really good champions, even though there's few. I think I'm going to put them in the S tier. I don't feel comfortable with the double S tier just because they don't have a whole lot of champions. They're missing champions in my opinion. And because you get Arbiter for free eventually, maybe Ethos is a double S tier champion. But outside of that, there's no must-have legendaries. And yeah, Royal Guard's a must-have at one point, but again, similar to Septimus, he's still great, but has lessened a bit in impact, and Tyrell's lessened a bit in impact. So overall, I just don't know if I can give this a double S tier. Sacred Order's next. Sacred Order, Roshkard's always been an underrated champion to me. This whole legendary group, in my opinion, very strong. Astralon, one of the best crowd control in the game. I don't see him near enough. I think stuns are very strong. And look, the guy's got a 2-turn stun. Or sorry, 1-turn stun. What I was saying. He's got a 100% chance on a 4-turn cooldown for a weekend and a stun. I don't know why in my head I was going to say 2-turn. But very strong here. It's just anytime you can stun champions, and he does have ignored defense, strength, and ally protection. He can actually places a shield buff on a champion equal 20%. Has the Countess Lix team up, which is really fun, and fills the champion's turn meter. So his kit overall really good. Really, you can do for damage, you can do for control. Either way, very strong. Errol hits really hard, but it's kind of the most boring, useless kit overall. So even though you can build him to be hit hard, the fact is, because he's only a single target no matter what, he should be hitting harder. It's too bad. Abbas, they did rework her. I think she's a lot better than she used to be. Probably an A tier. Martyr, though, is an S tier champion. You cannot dissuade me of how good Martyr is. She's one of the best champions, even to this day. If you pull her early game, you just won the game. You just beat the game. Even today, she's got counterattack, she's defensive base, she's strong, she puts an attack down, she puts a defense down, and like I said, you can get her to hit really hard. I remember on my first free-to-play account, I used her everywhere. I used her in Clan Boss, I used her in Arena, I used her in Arena Defense, I used her in Dungeons, I used her even in Spider. She was too good, she still is too good, and I personally use her still in the Doom Tower. So even though I have most champions out there, still have no problems using her in this game. Cupidus now with Venus, very strong combination in the Hydra. Cupidus's value has gone way up. Sir Nick, kind of a lost fodder. I think he's still an S tier champion. A lot of people kind of go out of their way not to use him anymore because they're trying to speed up their runs. But man, oh man, Sir Nick with that shield, the heals, the unkillable. It's just such a ridiculously strong champion. And Venus was good before, and they made changes. They make changes, and she's good before, right? It's silly because she's top 10 in the game. So very strong. Cardiel, not forget, I don't have him. Wish I did. Very strong champion. I'm going to give this group... I'm going to say double S tier. I mean, Venus, Cupidus, Cernic, Astralon, Martyr, Cardiel. It's hard to argue. I would take that group, I think, over the High Elf group. Maybe not S tier. Maybe not double S, but the higher than High Elf on the S tier. I don't know, S tier and a half. 1.5 stars. Sacred Order has a whole ton of epics. I think that a lot of them are underrated and you can use. I think a lot of them are trash and need to be fixed. And so it's a mixed bag. The standouts I see, Hope. I think you should never forget about Hope. Hope is the answer. Aethar is very strong. A lot stronger than people kind of remember. Romero, very underrated. Mordecai, a double S tier champion in my opinion. He places an AoE burn. He places it. He doesn't attack enemies. He just places it. No weak. Who cares about weak attack? He still places. It's all good. Phoenix, one of the hardest hitting epics in the game. Deacon Armstrong, if you've not seen all the videos on everything that this guy can do, it's a bonkers kit because of that extra turn. It just makes him so much better. But guess what? We have one more line. We have Inquisitor Shamael, who single-handedly changed the face of the Hydra boss simply by the fact that I have 3 built. Most people that were pulling for him, they could do a 100 time on Inquisitor. They even nerfed the whole mechanic and it still is OP. Godseeker and Neri, top tier. Lightsworn, unfortunately, his A1 leaves him so anemic that a lot of people ignore him, but he's still a pretty good champion. Cardinal, I mean, we all know about the Stone Skin Cardinals, right? Mistress has fallen off the cliff as far as my favor with me, but I think she's still a good champion if you pull her early enough. In the rares, Chaplain really good, Aethel really good, War Priest really free, Mother Superior in a pinch. This isn't the best of the bunch. There's a lot that I really don't like in this group. There's a few you can use in the early game. You're probably going to peter out. The problem with Chaplain is her most fun is when you no longer need her. You can just put stupid gear on her and use her. But she's not exactly crazy good. She's just, it's crazy fun. Aethel will eventually get, unlike Elhain, who I feel like has a place in the game, even into the end game, and I you know, it's been proven in Platinum Arena, though it's been a while. Aethel doesn't. She doesn't scale quite as well, and because she's weak affinity on Fire Knight 20, the one area where she would excel with her triple hit, it really kind of is unfortunate. So overall, I'm gonna give this guys a B- in there. And as far as their collective worth, absolutely. Not only do you have all these top tier champions, but you have these second level champions like Inabes, like Talia, Juliana, even Frostbringer, even though she doesn't bring the frost, and Romero. Just so many champions you can plug and play and you can fit in probably anywhere in the game. You could probably put 5 Sacred Order together and do very well. So I'm going to give their overall synergy an A. As far as their total team, I want them on S. I think... Gosh, Venus is so good and Cardiel is so good, but so is Ethos and Arbiter. I'm going to do this for now. We might have to come back to that. All right, next up, Barbarians. Now, the Barbarians are the most support group, I think, in the game. And unfortunately, in a tier list, that's going to kill them because as much as they have so much synergy in the game, with other factions within their own faction, they really leave a lot to be desired. And let me explain why. Alten, first of all, fell off the face of the earth once Clan Boss changed the way we did Clan Boss. So basically, Deadwood Jedi... Hope you're proud, Deadwood Jedi. You killed Altan. Send flowers to his family, because you killed him. I hope you're proud. I'm just kidding. I love you, man. Scylla the Drake's one of the best utility champions, and you get her for free. It's amazing. Oh, pardon. Probably underrated. He's got some really good kit for some really good survivability. Cantra's got a really good kit that helps with survivability. Elder Scar's got a really good kit that helps with survivability. Does some damage, though I do find it's a bit anemic. Valkyrie, she can be the best champion in the game at times. I think I still call her top 10. I mean, counterattack not nearly what it used to be, but that shield and that turn meter control and that hard counter to Siphi, she is so good. Rorik, I was very underwhelmed with Rorik. I don't know about Raph, obviously. Turvold, the hardest hitting champion in the game as far as a single target attack. Clan boss extraordinaire. He's got the Demetha record for damage. Ursuga, again, survivability. Yakarl, I haven't gotten him yet. I've kind of been buying his tokens off and on from the clan shop, but he's been reworked. I hear he hits a lot harder now. I mean, okay, that might be helpful. If I had him, I might think better of this group. And Tahanrak, great support. From the epic perspective, I think we got to say pretty much the same thing, right? Woad Painted, now one of the top, if not the top healer in the game. Really good support. Skytouch Shaman, well-documented arena support champion, very strong. Harkin, now that we can mess with her AI to tell her what to do, because it's weird that we should even have to tell her, but her debuff spread makes her activate anything and opens up so many more possibilities. Specifically, I'm thinking for the spider, but also for the Hydra and anywhere else that you need HP burn on a wide scale. You've got Alika, who, in spite of the fact that she takes 18 books, hard-hitting champion. On the flip side, you have champions like Aina, who I'm not very strong with. Sawai, not a very big fan. Vala, pretty lukewarm on. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Armina's pretty decent too. Atur isn't. So overall, you kind of have this group. There's one hard hitter in the whole group. There's a lot of synergy and fusion and activation, and Farrakhan and Haikatun even as a free champion. A lot of activation here. What I mean by that is they help activate other people's strengths. Farrakhan has the ally attack that also gives you crit damage buff and a crit rate buff, I believe it is. What is it? Is it crit damage, crit rate? I always forget. Because I never build it for that, but if you were smart enough, yeah, crit damage, crit rate. Also has your HP burn and poisons. Also has a decreased defense. But that's all activating other champions. He's really good when he's with Alika, but also with Phoenix, and also with he himself isn't a crazy champion, but he makes everything else around him good. From a rare perspective, you do have War Maiden, and I think the highly underrated Marked, and Soulbound Boyar. You also have Ox, who can be very good for the very specific rare attack secret room. And Sentinel is probably underrated as a rare. But overall, I think it's really only War Maiden and Soulbound that you're going to be using any time past the early game. And then even then, it's very, very spot. War Maiden is very squishy, so at some point you're probably going to replace her too. There's just better options when you pull them in Epic. So I'm going to give this group a B-, though the standouts are War Maiden, Soulbound, and the underrated Marked. As far as synergy, here's the thing. These guys can do any dungeon, anywhere, anytime. They just do it so slow because they don't have a whole lot of pure AoE nuking damage or even pure single target damage. They do have some standouts, but I don't think enough to call this a top tier team. I'm going to put the Barbarians down to B. I think that although they can probably clear more content more consistently, I don't think they have that speed time that you would get out of the Bannerlords because of champions such as Artemage and Septimus. You just get more bang for your buck. Rowan as well. You just have more bang for your buck here. So even though the Barbarian squad support-wise might outduel the Bannerlords aren't exactly weak in their own right with, Cathalia, Raglan, to name a few, and have just way more damage. So I'm going to put them down in B tier. I'm probably going to get burned for that, but that's my decision. Ogrin. God, what Ogrin has I like. So Biggin, yes. Gurptuk, situational. Drokul, very strong utilitarian. Gurgo, one of the best freezes in the game. Because it has a cleanse with a freeze. Very strong. I don't know why it's not used more often in Arena, to be perfectly honest with you. I think people just don't like having the freeze because the freeze actually reduces damage. So anyone after the freeze has to hit harder. Anyway, long story. Their epics, again, there's so many good epics here, and I think people tend to forget it. Standouts, Ugo, Eurogrim, and Skullcrusher are three of the most strongest epics in the game. Remember when I said with Stag Knight, you get one of the five? Well, Ugo's one of those five. She's magic affinity. She doesn't bring the attack down, but she does bring a block, which is really strong, specifically in Hydra, but even in Arena. She's also got heals and a very, very, very situational revive, but very strong. They've got 2 defense down. They also have Siege Hulk. Shatterbones is very underrated. Occult Brawlers, the Forgotten Hero, and Maneater. Hey guys, Maneater's amazing outside of the clan boss. You just got to rebuild him to land his A1. Guy's a top tier champion. Grush, very strong, utilitarian, heals, especially for this group that had missing some. But they do have a lot of glaring issues. Prundar is very underwhelming. Grunch takes way too many books. Gruckus is just... I have not tested, to be fair, but I'm not a big fan of the look of the kit. Cagebreaker, Towering Titan, yeah, you can use them. Towering Titan's probably better of the two, but just kind of a pain in the butt to use. Claude, also a hidden gem, I think. So you've got a real mixed bag here. I'm going to give them a B. And then here, you've got Bellower, and you've got Gear Grinder, and then you've got everyone else. I guess Jailer, you could say Ogrin Jailer, hits really hard, so don't forget about Ogrin Jailer. He can bring the damage. But not a fan overall of this group. I think very situationally, maybe we'll use Rocktooth or maybe Magma Blood. But honestly, you're not gonna. It's just not worth the resources. Whereas Bellower, top 5 rare in the game, still to this day, in my opinion. So overall, I gotta say, I think the problem again with them is damage. They have Biggin, and they have Biggin. They don't have a whole lot of damage here as far as pure nuking output. Galcut has some damage ability, but because he's a bomb champion, it kind of gets confused away from what his better skill probably is, which is his defense down on an A1, or sorry, an attack down on an A1. Oh no, decreased defense, yeah. And then this here hits pretty nice, except for it decreases after each hit, so whatever. Yeah, it's just kind of a ho-hum average group. Yeah, you can probably do content together, but nothing's gonna blow you away. And heaven forbid, if you don't have a Biggin, you're screwed in this group. So for that reason, because of their lack of a true second nuker in the game behind Biggin, I'm gonna have to give them so far. I'm gonna take them down to C tier. Now, it's hard to do that. We'll walk away and we'll come back to it after. Lizardmen. Now, Lizardmen, I hate their epics. I love their legendaries. That's the short of it. This is my legendaries in this group have my quickest time of any Faction Wars dungeon. So you're talking about Dracomorph, even to this day, one of the absolute standouts of legendaries. You've also got, now I haven't had a chance to run Bethasa yet, but I'm excited to do so. Fushan, Rosin, very strong. Shagur, if you haven't seen any of my videos on him in the clan boss, he absolutely wrecks under the Demetha comp. Ramontu is probably my favorite champion to use. It's tough because I have a lot of favorite champions to use. I'll probably say that 3 times this video, but he is so good. Krisk is next level. Krisk is if you're doing a tier list, you don't add Krisk to the tier list because it's not fair. I personally think, now I'm not, obviously he's not highly wanted for me because I have 2. But if I didn't have 2, he would be my most sought after champion in the game. There's too much he does. He can still be used in arena, although I think he's kind of moved on from arena because of meta. But I do believe that Krisk still is so, I mean, he alone, Hydra, makes Hydra a joke as compared to not having him. I wouldn't say it just makes it easy trigger, but at least having him versus not having him is a big deal. And honestly, without crazy gear, I don't have I have to use so many sets of healing gear, whatever they call, you know, the one that does the 15% every I don't know why I'm broken. It's a long day at work. But yeah, no, Krisk is just a next level. He's one of those 2 or 3 champions, objectively speaking, that's just next level in the game. And so is Ramontu. And double S tier, even though, you know, they have Vergamkar Vargal and Roxum, who's fun but not really usable, in my opinion, in the game. I still give them a double S tier because Fushan and Ramontu and Krisk and Draco and even Rosin are just so good. Now, the flip side is this group of misfit toys, which I think is so bad. Now, I got lambasted pretty bad on Basilisk because I incorrectly stated he doesn't have an AoE, but his A1 is an AoE. I still don't like him. All this does, he's an NPC. He's a great NPC. He slows down things to make it annoying for you. offensively, I think he's trash. And now, yeah, you can use him because he has an AoE A1. You put him in a stun set and you can help. But not a fan. Don't like him. Broadmaw's only a good support because there's nothing better. Yes, has a revive with block damage, has a increased crit rate, increased baby speed, and fills turn meters by 15%. Whoopee. And has a 35 to freeze. Now this got boosted. I want to say this used to be 15. Am I wrong? I feel like that was boosted, but yeah, I know that was boosted. That was used to be awful. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's always been 45%, and I'm hey, long day at work. But they brought in Quargon. Now Quargon has a potential to be good, but I think it's just too situational, and I don't like how his kit actually plays out in live battle. So he's kind of useless. Jizzo is food. Drake is food. Broodlord, I don't know. Like he's got some really good interesting with the block debuffs on an ally, but it's only an ally and on auto. That means it's gonna be, I think, the leader. And whenever this champion's attacked or whenever allies under ally protection, he has a 45% chance. Why 45%? You've already got a 1 in 5 and all that. So just not a fan of him. Does have the stun debuff if they're under decreased speed. So again, you can activate them, but it's kind of, I'm not a fan because it's so low percentage that you have to play around quite a bit to get it to be better. Aox really good, but still A. Veno, a solid B+. Dreg, solid B+. Support though, and Drang can actually do some pretty good damage. I like Drang now than I used to, but again, my problem with them is that I don't like the random, because you've got a decreased defense and decreased attack. It's already 75% chance, and then it's random. Well, what happens if all 3 hit one person? You're up against 5 opponents. It just slows everything to a halt. And then the stun, I do like the stun, and this does hit pretty hard. So I mean, Drang's got a nice kit. It'd be a nicer kit if you were supplementing a nuker, but he's the only nuker in this group. And before you say, yeah, but anyone can hit hard, but it's the level versus others, and Drake cannot hit hard enough, and no one else in this group of epics can hit hard enough. Skathix is actually really good. Before we forget, Skathix is really nice. Does have this single enemy, but this is the big thing here. It's got a cleanse with a block debuff and a shield for 2 turns, and that's a pretty big deal on a 4-turn cooldown when booked. And then has a nice this on this champion if his HP drops below 30%. So overall, it's a pretty solid champion. But again, a lot of support champions are good. Anything else here is pretty subpar. So overall, I'm going to give them a D. And but they're so double S tier legendary, D epics, and I'd say a C here. Yes, you can use Bogwalker early on, but yeah, okay. Metal Shaper, well, okay. Hearthbooks, I know some people have used, but overall, let's not kid ourselves. You're not excited to see any of these rares. I'm gonna give the rares a D. Altogether, synergy. Well, how much synergy do you need when you have so many good Lizardmen legendaries? This is a hard one because their legendaries are so good, but I have to put them at A. I can't put them at S, definitely not double S, because their epics are so bad. I'm going to leave them here for now, and we'll talk about it. Skinwalkers, awful. They're the worst group. Now, individually, they're not. Leorius, top 5 champion, at least top 5 sought after. Cleopteryx hits so strong now. Her attack is actually kind of next level since they buffed her. She's kind of a hidden gem now. Don't sleep on her. Coronor, very fun. There's different ways you can really activate this champion. Brachus, use him in the clan boss, love him. He's also a really, he's a bit of a meme, but a little bit of an annoyance to deal with in arena. War Chief, though still 100% broken, and I wish they'd fix him. He's still very usable in the current meta for Doom Tower. You've got Hawkhorn. Hawkhorn is a good cleanse. It's just that he's a legendary, and you've got an epic that does the same, or maybe even a little bit better. I think the cooldowns. So it's a little bit hard to say Hawkhorn is so amazing, but he's certainly not bad. Heals, cleanse, damage is okay. Got a single target stun. Longbeard, he's an activator. Another one, kind of like Farrakhan, where because he's got that ally attack piece, he's also got a weaken on his A2. Norog, defense. I don't have Norog. I've seen some fun kind of, you should use him like this, and then I see nobody use him, so I assume he's underwhelming at the long day. Their epics, Lizards are worse, but barely. Basher is an absolute all-star. Fane, outside of clan boss, in my opinion, is very anemic. Against bosses, she has the right toolkit, but it's all single target. She's very hard to keep alive. So outside of very specific ways, it's kind of she's great, and yet she's not great. So take that as you will. Steel Skull, pretty solid all-around champion. Horfees was brought in because there's no revives in here. The bears are everyone else is awful. I'm just gonna say it. Everyone else is awful. You can use Snorting Thug, Flesh Terror, Taurus in groups, but again, here's another problem: no nukers. There's zero nuking ability in this group. In fact, there's only like Fane is their hardest hitting single target, and she hits okay. Even you might even argue good, but there's nothing beyond that, and there's no AOE nuke here. Basher, you can kind of put them all together to do some damage, but I did some testing with him in one of my previous videos, and honestly, if you watch that video on him, it's not that, for the gear I used, it was underwhelming, and he's much better off being used as a support lockout champion, period. They do have some pretty good rares though. Panthera in a pinch can be used in the Fire Knight. Gnarlhorn is very good at certain little comps because he can do an unkillable piece, plus some taunting. Fleshmonger is only good because they don't have defense down on the team, which again, how are none of these an AoE defense down? No AoE nuke, no AoE defense down. So yeah, individually I like a lot of their champions, but as a whole, this is by far the worst. They are very, very poor. In fact, the fact that I don't like Ogrin being here simply because they're at a level below. Skinwalkers at a level so far below Ogrin, it's unfair to Ogrin, but that's the way it is. There should be I should have made a Z tier. Now we're gonna go on to Orcs. Now Orcs, I don't like them. However, they have the best champion, in my opinion, in the game. Warlord is the best champion, in my opinion, in the game. He does so much. He can do so much in so many different areas. Not just an arena champion. He can be clan boss if you want him to. He can be arena. He can be dungeons. He can be faction wars. He can be Doom Tower. He does everything, and he does it at a level that is absolutely bonkers. Armbrago, he is now again more of an activator, right? A more complementary champion, though he can do some good single target damage. Don't sleep on that. King Garog, since buffed, hits hard. If you think he's trash because of what he used to do, go back. He's pretty good. I haven't had a chance. Gomlock might be the soul, but here's the deal: he has this. He has all enemies and has a chance for that decreased defense and decreased weekend. So they've really improved their lot up here. Kreela, again, there's another ally attack. Very good. She hits a little bit harder than the other ones, so she's very strong that way. Also has a good set of buffs with her. But Tila's the worst champion in the game. Robar, fun, but not very realistically usable. Nogdar, I've seen a lot of people use them. Fun, but not much. Grohawk, not much. So, again, probably I'm going to give them an A only because of Warlord. Well, actually, I'm going to give them an A because not only do they have Warlord, but they have Brago and Grog. The reason why they don't get S or double S is because they have Tila, and she is so bad. And honestly, Grohawk and Robar, meh. Now, Epics, they have two of the best epics in the game. Duck is another one of those champions. I said the 5. They're the best champion in the game. Once you get one of them, it doesn't matter which one it is. That's your best champion, epic champion. Then after that, you get Seer, who is number 2. No matter which one you get of those number 1, then you don't need another one. It's nice to have more of them, but say you pull Duck, you don't need Stag Knight. Then you need Seer. Seer's your second one that you want for epics, and she is absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, one thing Duck did do that was unfortunate is made Zargala kind of useless. Not useless, but kind of redundant. I think Duck is just a better version of a support champion, but you can rebuild out Zargala to just be a full-blooded nuker and forget her debuffs, or just maybe you land them. Bonekeeper, very underrated, but single target. And Vrask is a strong support champion with really good heals. Those are the standouts of the epics. I'm going to give the epics a solid B+. I think the fact that you have Seer... Actually, I'm going to give them an A, because Duck and Seer alone, and then you include the fact that you have Vrask and Bonekeeper. See my video on Bonekeeper, by the way. And even Torture Helm, though he's not a big deal, the fact is he can solo Dragon 20, so that says something, right? So overall, very good. Rare champions. Well, you have the worst starter. You have Ironclad, which is really fun to play, and that's really all you have here. Granted, I haven't played with all of them, but there's probably a reason why. So again, probably a C minus. Would be an F if it wasn't for Ironclad. So overall, the Orcs, my problem with the Orcs is, let's go back to the Orcs for a second. My problem with the Orcs is a problem I had with a couple others is where's their nuking damage? Now they have Seer. So that probably makes them better than Orcs. They have Seer, she's very strong. But outside of that, Zargala does some pretty good damage with her crack armor. Attacks all enemies 3 times, and then has this if it kills an enemy. So it's not awful. And now if you do build her out to not be a debuffer, but instead just be pure damage, so it's not the worst. But again, I just think that, I mean, King Garog's been buffed, so there is some nuking ability. I don't know if I just find that it still makes it as a group a little bit difficult. Like Seer, you can't really use Seer with a whole lot of this to activate because there's not a whole lot of buffs to be used. Sandless Survivor is really good. I don't know. I think we put the Orcs in B tier. I think they're better than Ogrin because they have more overall nukers. I think Biggin and King Garog can cancel each other. I think Biggin's better than King Garog, but I think they can cancel each other out in the nuking department. And then you still have Zargala and you still have Seer. Plus Seer and Duck, 2 of the best epics. 1-2 in the game. Well, 1A of 5. And then you have Seer, who's solid number 2. Are they better than Barbarians? I'm gonna say they are. I know that's a hot take, but for now we're gonna say that. We'll go back. We'll come back to that. Demonspawn. Well, this is an easy one. They're the best. Well, maybe they're not the best. They're one of the best in the game. So Prince Kymar, top 5. Tyrant, endgame usable. Countess, endgame usable. Drexthar, endgame necessary. Candrafon, top 5 nuke. Vassal, I haven't had a chance to play around. Sishia, very fun, very highly sought after champion. Wither, top 10 defense, top 5 defense even. Mortar Macabre, bit of a meme, but still can be very dangerous in 3v3 arena, so we'll give him props. Lord Shazar's been buffed. His bombs do more damage. Bombs are kind of coming back into some popularity, so that's re-upping him, plus best aura in the game. Duchess Lilitu, overall utility, top 5 champion in the game. Helikath just added, ridiculously strong. Please give more Demonspawn, you Jesus player. Kertraxa and Anithwe, kind of forgotten champions, but both very strong in their own right. But then you go to their epics, and it doesn't really fall off. Allure, Magnar are the highlights. They're the double S tier of this. Magnar's nuking ability is obscene. And then you have Allure, who's, I mean, if everyone knows about Allure, I hope. If you don't, PM me and I'll let you in. Also has the meme for one of the most ridiculous epics in the game in Scion. It's just an awful meme. Achak, though, pretty good. Paidma, top tier. Umbral Enchantress, if you've forgotten, she's double S tier. And if you need to know why, then you need to watch more videos on YouTube, because Hydra, Faction Wars, Arena, you can just use her anywhere. That lockout ability with the taunt is obscene. And then they added like Gorlos with his defense down, which is something the epics were missing. Excruciator, a forgotten hero, single target. She's like a baby Kertraxa, hits really hard. So that overall, I think an A plus, probably even an S tier, just because of Allure and Magnar, to be honest with you. And I didn't even talk about Nizana, didn't talk about Tanix, very strong champions in their own right, and I'm sure even Skimfos. So very strong champion overall. And then their rares, well, they have Fellhound, they have Diabolist, and they have Hellborn for the clan boss for that one, the Infinity comp. Just really strong. Now Malbranch and Marquis and Ifrit are a meme, and Marquis and Marquess, the family meme. But I still think just on the strength of Diabolist and Fellhound, you probably have to give them an A. Very strong early to mid game champions. And Fellhound can 5-second farm 12-3 brutal. So where do we put them? I mean, when you look at just their kit, they can do everything. They can do it anywhere. They're just ridiculously strong. I think this is the first one I have to put in the double S. Now we can go back at that, but for now, I want to put them in that double S. Undead Horde, they're just strong champions. Still no void epics. How? Are you kidding me? Legendaries. Crypt King Grawl. Ever since his buff, He's an A tier champion, maybe even S tier. I think he can solo Spider 25, but he can speed run it as well. He's so good, so strong. He's got burn, then a freeze on the burn, and they call it freezer burn. Rotos, Cyto's fun, though he's not exactly top tier. He's not bad either. There's some really fun comps with him. Skartorsis is strong in certain scenarios. Bad Alcazar, just utilitarian, so good. He's still one of the most sought after, and rightly so. Bloodgorge, one of the most underutilized champions. He does have a lockout skill, because it only puts one of each target skills on cooldown. What we need is it needs to be all. But this thing here, attacks when enemy ignores defense with a block revive. It hits pretty dang hard. Solid, well documented, amazing champion in so many areas of the game. Harvest Jack, and Nethril kind of fallen off the face of it. Still very good. Two champions that I are highly sought after. Siphi, if you don't believe me that Warlord is the best champion of the game, it's probably because you think Siphi is, and I'm not going to argue against you, even though my beliefs are different. That's how good she is. Necrit, defense, probably the best defensive arena champion in the game. I mean, especially with Siphi, you can say, oh, it's Siphi, oh, it's Necrit. Together, they're obscene. Eurost, if you've seen him, Scarab Boss solo, that alone makes him really fun. Little Miss Annie, not very happy with her. Going to be a video on her later this week. And Vlad is terrible. But so many good champions as legendary. S tier, double S tier legendaries. Now, epics, pretty much the same thing. Gorgrab, Seeker, Dark Elhain, Husk, especially now with the Hydra boss. Vogoth, very good. Anax, Hexia, he or Knight Errant. I'm not sure. I'd have to maybe do a face-off. But her with the debuffs or him with full health, one of them is the hardest hitting epic in the game. Single target. So just crazy damage. And then there's forgotten ones like Mausoleum Mage, very strong. Zelata, even Corpse Collector, she got a bit of a buff, decent. So yeah, just strong all around. But their rares are probably the hidden gem. Grinner, Seducer, support champions that people forget about. Frozen Banshee, Gravetill, Clan Boss Specialist, amazing. Corpulent Cadaver, lots of good videos on him. Overall, just Sorceress even. No, she's just garbage. She's a free food, in my opinion. But overall, really good champions in here. Probably maybe second best in the group. So very strong there. Overall, I mean, they synergize well. Here's the only problem with them. All this amazing, all this crazy, and I still find that they're one of the most underwhelming Faction Wars 21 teams because of the Valkyries. They rely so much on buffs among their top. Like Salad puts buffs up, Bad Alcazar does, Siphi does. They have so much reliance on that. Or you run it so slow using like a Vogoth Eurost that it's kind of underwhelming for a team for this good a roster. So for that reason, so many good champions. I think because of Siphi, do we put it here? I might take him down to A. I'm not gonna lie to you. That doesn't sit well with me. There's so many good champions in that group, but for some reason I feel like as a whole they're underwhelming in synergy. So we might come back. Dark Elves. Now, Dark Elves. Okay, Ray, top nuker, and crowd control. Foley, top nuker with block revive. Zavia, top nuker with poison explosion. Vizier Ovalis, the best debuff extender in the game. Chromax obviously haven't had a chance. Astrolabe, very underrated. Good stand-in until you get Arbiter. Does fall off considerably in the late game, but has had some really cool meta moments or counter meta moments in the arena. Still very underrated in my opinion, Astrolabe. I think you can find different ways to get her to work, though at the end of the day, you're just better off using Arbiter once you get her, or using Kymar, I guess, once you get him, a better aura. But still shouldn't be slept on if you're stuck in the early game. Ghostborn, I think if you're an endgame player, I think Ghostborn is the best endgame legendary. What I mean by that is, once you have that crazy gear, and once you're trying to put up those crazy speed teams, they always seem to have Ghostborn because he has that can't be resisted defense down that just makes him next level in PvE. He's also very good in PvP. I think people stopped using him but he still is a very good counter meta against high resist teams. Because who cares if they're high resist teams, right? So don't forget about Ghostborn. I just think people forget about him, and it's a him, by the way. Those are not boobs. Those are muscles. So many people call Ghostborn a woman. Dude has got dreads and a long hair. It doesn't make him female. Stop projecting. Ruel should be cool with his curse or with his hex. Hex has been made better. Still don't think it's enough, but he's not awful. Just kind of my fifth choice in everything. But yet another dark elf. Lydia, wow, what can you say about Lydia? She's just so ridiculously strong. Blind Seer, though she's fallen off a bit with all the other champions have come in with these cool kits, still very strong champion, especially ever since they buffed her to get rid of that stupid thing where she loses most of her health. And Vizix, so after she got buffed, very strong. And Mithrala, very strong. So double S tier legendaries. Epics, so they have some very strong standouts, but they also have some very crappy ones too. So their standouts, Dark Kale, it's too bad we get him so late. He's next level. Lua, they forget about her. Her damage, so ridiculous. Sylar, control champion extraordinaire. I mean, if you don't have Lysandra, bring Sylar in. She will control. Plus, very good in Spider, very good in progression. She's anytime you just need extra time to kill the enemy, just bring in Sylar. She's very, very, very underrated. And of course, Madame Saris, one of the five. The advantage of Saris, she's so much better in arena than all the other, the Stag Knight, the Tyrell, the Ugo, the Duck. She's in arena, she's 10 times them. 10 times them because she strips. But in PvE, she's 1/10 them because it's a 4-turn cooldown. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it isn't. See, it used to be a 3-turn, so it wasn't. But ever since they changed that to a 2-turn, 2 turns without decreased defense and decreased attack in PvE is rough. But in arena, who cares? So still top 5 epic in the game. And even here's the difference with Madame Saris. Whereas if I get Duck, I don't care if I get Tyrell. Or even Stag Knight. If I get them, great. If I don't, so what? Even if I get Duck or Stag Knight, I want Madame Saris because I can use Madame Saris differently for the strip in a different area. She's still better in arena than them, so to such a degree. But if you pull her and you don't have any of the others, she's still probably your best epic in the game because she has the decreased defense and decreased attack. But on top of that, she has a shield, a fear. She has the true fear with the block and the chance to steal. And then even a fear here. So overall, just a really, really, really ridiculously strong champion. Also, Luria is decent. Visionary is not. I don't know why. Crimson Helm can be used. Captain Tamela and Caden, they're all kind of there. Rion is also pretty decent. I'm going to give them a B+, only because I am so not excited because of like Warden, Spider, Fang Cleric. And I know people are like, but you can use. I know you can, but it doesn't mean you should. And Gwyneth. There's a lot of champions, especially if you build champions like Visionary and Gwyneth, I feel like they should be better. And I found them very underwhelming when I was playing around with them. So maybe it's just me. Maybe I need to take a different look at them. But I just feel like it's unfortunate. As far as their rares, we're going to have to give them an S. Because I think they have maybe with High Elves, I think they're the second best behind the High Elves. They've got Kale. Arguably the tied for best starter in the game. Mystic Hand, very usable early mid game. You have got Spirit Host, free champion, very usable in the early mid game. It's got the cleanse with the block debuffs. You've got Cold Heart, end game extraordinaire. Paragon, if you need to cheese something, he's the guy you're using. And so what if it's cheese? He's still there. He's still amazing at doing it. Painkeeper, even aside from the Maneater comps, of which Painkeeper is the mainstay, just in general, Painkeeper made all my Faction Wars much easier. Back when Faction Wars it was his first nerf, everyone was still having a hell of a time with it, but Painkeeper was a difference maker because it had some heals, it had cooldown reduction, just everything about Painkeeper's kit so strong for a rare. So overall, I mean, legendaries at least on par with Demonspawn. I'm gonna argue, and I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of grief for this, better than Demonspawn because of Lydia Ghostborn, and probably personally speaking, because of Foley, because mine's a +4. But just the fact that even Ray, Lanicus, Zavia, Vizier, Mithrala, even Eva, who's an out-of-the-box farmer, there's so much here to use, and to use at so many different levels in the end game. I just think overall this pool is ridiculous. Now, I don't have certain ones, but I've used every single one of these champions, built them out that I have. I've built them out, used them, and used them in the end game to success. So that argues. Now, are they here? They're lacking a little bit, but their standouts are so good. Lewis, Sylar, Dark Kale especially, Madame Saris. And then the fact that they have probably the second best rare group. Are they double S tier? I want to say yes, and I actually want to put them here. And we might have to revisit that. Knights Revenant. So, Knights Revenant used to be a rough group. They've added a lot and a lot of fun. Especially you think of Calvalax, Drang, who I've just got, and he's so fun. He's so fun. He's already so fun. He's got an HP burn. He's got the Death's Balance. He's got this activator. It reflects 30% of the damage received back to the attack of the champion, 50% HP or more. So, this is the one time this works. It's the one time. And the reason is because this guy has such a high HP pool and he's an HP champion. So we're going to build him for HP. And so if he has more than 50% HP, he's going to reflect that damage, 30% of it, which is good because he has so much HP. If he has less than 50% HP, he's going to deal more damage. Now, I built him out to be a spider guy for a different video, but apparently this guy can smack. So I am probably going to do something with him, feature him somehow, but potentially this guy's hit damage is absolutely through the roof. So very excited to see that. Plus he's got the increased ally HP. Very strong champion. And I've heard Shemnath is good too, although I can't say. Tomb Lord gets buffs, even though the upper tier dragon made him good anyway. Bistafist still kind of boring. Gaius, really fun new champion. Solus, since his buff, amazing. Hegemon, amazing. Wolrum, good, at least. Put him in the good category. Epics, still... Okay, so I'm still a little bit meh on them as a whole because there's a lot of kind of like Crypt Witch and Necro Hunter that are just... Or even Pharsalus, or they're just kind of uninspired. But they have Miscreated Monster top 10. They have Doom Priest, utility, usable in any particular place and time. Sinesha, amazing champion that is probably underutilized. Sepulchre Sentinel, one of the greatest champions to come out, especially when she did come out and help so many people through the clan boss. Rector Drath single-handedly changed faction wars for this entire group. Thalesia, defense down, finally in this group. I can keep going on. Just so many good champions. Whisper, I just did a video on her. I'm using her. I kept her gear, more or less. I kept it because I thought she would. After using her, I was so impressed with her. I'm keeping her and I'm using her in just about every boss scenario. I use her on my third team for Hydra. I use her in the Doom Tower all over the place. And I still use her in one dungeon. I can't remember. But yeah, just so good. Rares, I mean, you have Renegade. Amazing. Renegade's amazing. I mean, she's an activator. She's in herself isn't crazy, but she does so many good things. Coffin Smasher, such a top tier rare. Arcanist can be used in a pinch. Gladiator can be used in a pinch. I mean, some decent stuff here, but there's some garbage stuff. The fact that Executioner kind of got nerfed. And some really uninspired Alkalite Guardian, that sort of thing. So I'm going to give it a B overall. So synergy wise, they used to be really bad and now they're kind of really good as a group. Together they've got almost everything. They got poisons, they got debuffs, they got nukers, they got HP burn, they've got bomb exploders, they've got really bad Bethea, they've got support. I don't know what they don't bring anymore. So this is they were used to be much worse, but I think I'm going to put them in A tier. I honestly think, in my mind, I'd rather have Knights Rev than Barbarian. Again, I think Barbarian can clear everything, and I don't know if I can say that about Knights Rev, But I think Knights Rev what they can clear. They can do it faster, better, stronger, and more exciting. 2 left. Oh god, it's been an hour. Ooh. Okay, 2 left. We've got the two of the best champions in the game. You got Underpriest Brogni and Trunda. They're at a level unsurpassed. Underpriest Brogni is Siffy level utility, and Trunda is the best nuker in the game. There's no situation. She's just the best nuker in the game. Yes, you can, if E equals MC squared and the stars align and blah 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 blah, someone can hit harder. But she just comes out of the box. You just put a bunch of damage on her with crit damage, and she hits hard. Herndig, very appreciated champion by a lot of people, including myself. But very strong champion with some turn meter control and good damage. Mountain King, he's so slow, but he's good. I don't know about the 3 that I don't have yet. Nari, I'm not a big fan of Nari. Molly, such a strong support. Samar, though I dislike him, he can solo Bommel, and he gets me through Bommel every time, so I can't complain. And Tormund, even to this day, is just so good in arena defense, and it's weird I have 2 and I don't use them because of how I build up my teams, but that's probably a mistake on my part. I probably should come back and use Tormund because he's just that good. Epics. Fodbor really changed the view of the epics, in my opinion. I know you're going to probably say, what about Melga? What about Runekeeper? And they're both S-A. Well, Runekeeper's S tier, in my opinion. Melga's A tier. Rearguard Sergeant's been there the whole time. Geomancer, in what he does well. But Fodbor has the defense down, which this was missing, right? It was just missing. And now you have it. So that just makes him next level. I don't know if one of these new ones has a defense down. It's single. Like an AoE one? I don't think so. HP burn. No, really? They still know. They just don't like it. They just don't like. Okay, so so that's what makes Fodbor so much better. But the problem I have with this group is there's no AoE here, and there's 2 AoE here, right? Samar, yeah, he's kind of AoE, but I don't really like him. I don't know about the ones that I haven't pulled yet, but in the epic pool there's no AoE tier, and I think that's a big X. I know there's like a Veer and who's the other one? I think it's Delore, isn't it? There's a or Dilgol. There's a couple here that you can use. Bulwark's really good. Master Butcher's decent. So they, solid B here. They have Candle Guard, so I know that J Gigs loves them. Overall, I think the Dwarves have decent synergy. I think their lack of a epic nuker, AoE nuker, really hurts. I think they're stalwart. I think they make any other team stronger, but on their own, it's really tough to say. So, I mean, only because, in my opinion, of Trunda and Brogni, I'm going to put them in A. But overall, just kind of, they're just kind of 1 or 2 champions short from being S tier. But those 2 champions also, in my opinion, push them back on this turntable as well. Then finally, we have the Shadowkin. Lady Kimmy, amazing. Ninja, amazing. Yoshi, pretty dang good. Genzen, top tier. Kyoku, I don't have him, but I've seen him and I've dealt with him. He is amazing. Gameron, have yet to play around with him. Karato, underwhelming. Riho, remember I said I was probably going to say my favorite champion in the game a couple times? Well, here's another time. Favorite champion in the game. Second most sought after champion for me is Yumiko. Yumeko. God. Yumiko. By the way, Layla, if you watch this, Yumiko. Not Yumeko. Yumiko. I'm pretty sure. Maybe we should bring, because it feels very Japanese inspired, maybe we should ask a native of Japan. But I feel like it's Yumiko. That feels right. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just saying. I always call it Yumeko. I feel like it should be Yumiko. Anyway, nothing to do about nothing. Amazing champion. As far as the epics go, Taragi's really good. Shani, I love Shani. I think she's very underrated. Her single target nuking is just bonkers. Burn-Jiri, very good. I mean, we've seen him in Bommel, but honestly, he's a very strong champion for synergy and for lockdown. He's got a stun. He's a really good champion. Genbo in the arena, or Genbo in the arena. Yeah, very good. Oboro, hard to activate, but what she does well. Masamoto, very underrated. I have to do a video on him still. Very strong. Shonoru, not a huge fan, but still usable. A lot of usability here. Here, not a whole bunch. I think Blood Mask maybe. So here's the problem with this group is that I don't think they really have much for nuking. Now, I would say that I think Jintoro is but he's single target. So even then, AoE nuking, like Ninja's got a random target, very good against bosses. Noble's garbage. I heard he's good now, but I don't know yet. Koyoku is a defensive based champion. What about Jin Wong? I thought people said was very underwhelming. It's all a single attack. So they're really missing that AoE nuke, and they're especially missing it in epics. Oboro needs to have like 4 debuffs on a champion to AoE. There's no AoE here, and it's really poor. I mean, Genbo has it, but if you saw my video on the challenge accepted, so underwhelming. And I've done a video on Shinoru 3 times at random, removes and then attacks all enemies. This is okay, but it doesn't hit hard enough. Neither of them hit hard enough to be a true AoE nuker. They're kind of that secondary nuker, right? You have a nuker, and then you have your finish. Or they start it by doing their removal, their cool stuff, and then your second one comes up and lays everything flat. Alone, even both of them together, was very underwhelming. But there's a lot of cool things about this here. There are a lot of very cool stuff with a lot of these champions. So it's hard to completely dismiss them, which makes it hard to... but I'm going to put them B tier, but I'm going to put them top of the B tier. If they make a bona fide AoE nuker for this group, like an Alika type, even Fenchi, even Phoenix, who's got a really strong AoE along with some single skill stuff. If they were to just give that one champion who has that wave clearing potential, then I would put them considerably higher. So now that we have the group here, am I okay with this? I think I'm okay with the bottom 2. I'm really torn on this group here. I think I'm going to do this, because even though I feel like the clear and the synergy and the nuking potential of Orcs is better, I just think that as many good champions in the support world as Barbarians have, and I'm even going to do this, because to me, overall, they're so good. Yes, they're, again, a nuker away, but I'm okay with that. This group, I think, so when I last looked at this, I had it like this. Drang makes them better. And I haven't even played with the other new one. So strong. And here's the other thing I'm going to do, because as much as I think Bannerlords, though they have no standouts, have such good, amazing overall well-roundedness, I have to say, when you have Krisk and you have Draco, well, even when you have Krisk alone, but on top of it, you have Draco. On top of that, you have Fushan. I mean, they've got the worst epics in the game, but their legendaries make up for it. So compact, 5 legendaries. If you had to pick 5 legendaries from any faction, I think this might be the best. I mean, you could argue with the ones above it for very good reason, but I mean, gosh, if you had, like, can you imagine you put a team together, a Lizardmen team together, you've got Draco, Krisk, Ramontu, Rosin, and Fushan. How is that not? And, Affinity? Who cares? Krisk is keeping you alive. Draco lands his debuffs. Fushan hits really hard. Oh, it's a Spirit Affinity? Well, guess what? Now Draco's the one nuking everyone to death. And Ramontu doesn't care. Krisk doesn't care. And on top of it, you can sub in Sugar. Bathasa, as soon as I get around to testing him, I'm sure he'll be good. Rosin's got you single target. And even as crappy as these two are, you can bring them in to be tankier, more survivability. So just their legendaries are at a level that just makes me... I have to put them where I put them. And that's the top of the A tier. As far as the S tier go, I think just the breadth of, you've got the Venus Cupidus buff together. You've got Sir Nick. You've got Cardiel. It's really hard for me to argue that just because the high elves have so few champions, I feel that makes Sacred Order better. Especially Mordecai might be the most underrated epic in the game, because placing HP burn changes everything, and it's so ridiculously strong. And he also has turn meter control. I think that if you don't think Mordecai is that strong, then you need to relook at him. But then you also have Shamael, and you also have Godseeker and Neri. There's so much to like, and there's so many of these middle tier champions that will fit. They'll just fit in. You could put Juliana Talia, into a team. You can do so much with them. So I'm okay with this. I'm okay with these. So the question is, does this make sense? Are there 3 triple S tier? And are those right? I think without a doubt, to me, top to bottom, overall, Demonspawn is the strongest faction. Though ironically for me, the strongest faction is Dark Elves, which is why I think I rate them so highly. And the only thing stopping me, and I'm going to do this, and the only reason I do that, in my mind, is as much as the Demonspawn the Undead have so many strong champions, the fact that they don't even have the right champions to quickly speed farm their own faction, that says something. And yeah, you can get through it. I think I do 2 to 3 minutes. I've got all the champions, except for Siffi, who, by the way, wouldn't make it any quicker because buffs, Valkyries. You just don't have that. There's other, like my Dark Elf, they do Valkyries, and it's a minute. It's a minute flat. I think it's 58 seconds. And my Lizardmen is 55 seconds. And my High Elf is like a minute. It depends. It's a minute 15 or something. It's my fastest. But with all the freezers are stupid because it can't be resisted. But that's the only problem. And if Pixneal actually did her job properly, it would be even quicker. But she doesn't even now, 100 buffs later. So I'm not going to put the books in her. But, you know, to have all these other ones do everything so well, and then to come to the Undead and for them to just embarrass themselves in comparison, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. That's the one I'm feeling tipsy about, but I think I like this. So overall, I think that's my tier list. We have Demonspawn number 1, Dark Elf number 2, Undead number 3, Sacred Order number 4, High Elf 5, and then for the A tier, we've got, in order, you've got Lizardmen, Bannerlords, Knights Revenant, and Dwarves. Then you've got the Barbarians, Shadowkin, and Orcs in the B tier. In the C tier, you have Ogrin. And these should be the Z tier. That's not fair that they're on the same line. Should be the Skinwalkers. I know there'll be plenty of people disagreeing with me because every faction has these key elements that if you zone in on them as your most important thing, then you could argue them to be a tier above, for example, like Knights Revenant, Bannerlords. Are they too high? Maybe. You know, are the Dwarves too low? I went through this over an hour 12, and this isn't my first time trying to do this, so I'm gonna end it here. It's gonna be a long video. If you did make it through this, I appreciate you. If you didn't, I understand, but we're gonna stop it there. I want to thank you. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you agree? What do you disagree? Let me know why, and we can have a little chat about it. That's all I have for you today. Please be safe, be kind, and as always, we'll see you in the next video.